Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any questions on what we have studied?
Hari Om, Jankiji.
Hari Om.
I had a general question. Can I ask?
Please.
So we say that vasanas, when they manifest, they first manifest as the subtle body and then as the gross body. But when we see both in the microcosm and in the macrocosm, they seem to manifest as the gross first. So if you see a child, the mind and intellect haven't manifested, only the body has manifested. And when you look at the universe, first it was a big bang, the life wasn't there first. So there seems to be a dichotomy which I cannot understand.
Good question. Okay, so let's say that, let's take the child example first. Is it true that the body manifests first? When you say that the mind and intellect isn't there, it's not that it isn't there. It has manifested as this living being. There would not be a living being unless there was a mind and intellect, right? You remove the mind and intellect, there's no living being. So the manifestation of that living being is this child. The child is not devoid of mind. Okay, the child, even in the womb, is expressing. Today I read in the papers, I mean, I didn't read it, but I saw the paper lying around. So it was there, just the headline that the child in the womb sees a carrot and smiles. I mean, how is the child seeing a carrot? I don't know. So but okay, it says something about a child seeing the carrot and smiling and seeing a knife and grimacing. So they're exhibiting emotions when the child kicks. Okay, so the child is exhibiting emotion. Not only that, there's a certain amount of research on how, which is of course said in our scriptures, but I think there's some research now on how they even learn in the womb. Straight away, we have these traditional stories about Abhimanyu and all who actually learned while he was in the womb. Now that may or may not be factual, but there is a certain amount of research now on, how children learn from the womb. Like, for instance, in the Jewish tradition, it is a given that when the woman becomes pregnant, she starts listening to classical music. It's sort of a done thing among the Jews, apparently. If you look at the top musicians in classical music, a large percentage are Jews. So, all the violin maestros and all, they're actually, most of them are Jews. So this is an interesting thing. So it is not that the gross body comes first. there is life, right? Whenever life starts, the mind and intellect have to be there. Since the mind and intellect are there, they are expressing themselves in some way. Firstly, in life itself. And secondly, in these emotions and thoughts which are on. Now, the mind and intellect is also very tiny, but then so is the body. You can't say it's a very small manifestation, but its body's manifestation is small too. Okay. So one, and the second example was of the universe. Okay, now of the universe is really more interesting insofar as there's no such explanation possible for it, right? Now that's probably why you are asking the question.
I say something.
Mrs. Chaudhary, your volume, you're not unmuted, so thank you. So in the case of the universe, it's a little more interesting because it requires a higher philosophical explanation. We can get rid of the child example easily, but the universe example is a very different one. You think, as do all of us, that there was a big bang 4.32 billion years ago. The universe expanded, the stars were made, the planets came about, debris collected around the stars and started revolving around him and collided with each other and made what we today call planets. And this is what physics tells us. And it is an accepted fact. Nobody denies that. And this was the creation of the world. And then, of course, life somehow started. There's no explanation of how life started, but life somehow started. And once it started, we know it evolved and it has become what we are today, going by Darwin's theory. Philosophy doesn't see it like this. And I'm glad you're asking this question now because we just finished this chapter. Imagine that you are in the dream. You are a 40-year-old person in the dream. For those 40 years, you have accountability of how they came about. You also can say exactly the same thing, that there was a big bang, that the stars were formed, the debris were collected, but not enough to go into the stars, but enough to sort of collect and make planets. And you would be right from the perspective of the dream. But when you wake up, there was no 40-year-old, there were no stars, there were no debris, there was no big bang. Right? So that chronology is not even accepted by Vedanta. I wouldn't like to say not accepted because it is scientific, you cannot deny it. We're not denying it. We're talking about a higher truth. Then that is what the way the Indian tradition put it was, there is the day and night of Brahma. I don't know if you attended chapter 8. Did you attend ever chapter 8 explanation? Bhagavad Gita?
No, I don't.
No, okay. So it talks about the kalpas, the eons of time, the day and night of Brahma. So Brahma wakes up. Brahma is the Lord of creation. He wakes up and then this whole creation comes about. Human beings also come about. And then it's time for Brahma to go to sleep and the whole thing closes down again. So they have represented the creation as a cycle. Okay, and the 4 yugas, each kalpa is made of the 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and what is Kali Yuga? And then Pralaya. Pralaya means destruction. Madeline, you need not know all the names of the yugas. It's not really necessary. But the Indian tradition gives 4 eons of time. I mean, in 1 eon of time, it gives 4 yugas. How do you translate yugas? What's the word for eons? I mean,
Era.
last periods of time.
Era.
Era.
Periods.
Periods. Okay, so 4 periods. Very good. Thank you. You're translating Sanskrit for me, Madeline. What can I say about this? 4 periods of time, large periods, all totaling up to eventually 4.32 billion years, which is exactly what today's cosmology also tells us, comes to 4.32 billion years. So they said it closed, it opened, it closed, it opened. In the night of Brahma, vasanas are still there, remember? And when it manifests as the world. It closed down and then vasanas are still there. So that's how they represented the cycles. But the thing is always that even this interpretation, the reason I'm saying this is to say that we're not against that science. It was our science as well. And our science, that was the ancient science as well. But there is a higher knowledge that says that as long as you're in the dream, it has a relative reality. And you have your explanations of it. But when you wake up, then that reality doesn't hold anymore. So it's a good question, but I don't know if it's a good answer. But you know, when you think about it, you begin to realize that there is so much beyond, what should I say, the obvious and the immediate. For us, it's obvious the world exists, no? I mean, like, where's the doubt? And it's also obvious that the planet came before the living being. How can the living being come before a planet? And yet, the laws go like this. It has to be the genius of someone who can establish this as a truth. Some genius existed in the past who wrote all this stuff down and didn't even tell us what his name was, that we may say, thank you, genius, whoever you were. You know, this whole, I don't know, Madeline, if you're aware, this whole knowledge is anonymous. We don't know who wrote it. It is not written by one person, like science is not written by one person. It's a galaxy of sages and saints, but they didn't even leave behind their names. We don't know who wrote the text. I mean, not that it would matter. Suppose we knew that Brahmadatta, for instance, wrote the text. You don't know Brahmadatta, so ours is going to be of any value. But the fact is, we don't even have a name to sort of thank them by. Okay, Deepraj, is that fine?
I will think about this. Thank you so much.
Preeti, can we say that we are already born when we are in the womb, which is the real birth? The real birth we never know, Preeti, but for this real birth, when did this mind and real birth is, when did the mind and intellect come into existence at all? Or when did vasanas come into existence at all? You can't answer this question. Vedanta's answer is it never came into existence. So it doesn't need to even tell you when it came into existence. But that is not an answer acceptable to us, because you say, how can you say vasanas didn't exist? Because vasanas didn't exist, that means mind and intellect doesn't exist. That means this body doesn't exist, but I am talking to you, so there is a body. So therefore there has to be mind and intellect, therefore there has to be vasanas. So then we just get into this conundrum. So when did it start? We don't know. But we can talk about this life. So when did Preeti's life start? When did Preeti become a person? What is the real birth? So the real birth is something that will be told to us not by philosophy, but by science. At what stage do you say that when the ova and the sperm meet, at what stage is it a living being? You know, first they meet and then they break down and they become single cellular, multicellular, all this natak goes on over there. So at what stage is it really a living being? Because if science tells us that, then we will know at what stage there is a mind and intellect there. So we can't answer that question, Preeti. Not our job, luckily. Many times we can easily push the problem to somebody else. So the scientists will tell us that when does life start? When you claim life starts, at that point, it is when the mind and intellect have gone.
So this birth date that we are celebrating is actually not real birth date, right?
Neither is the birth date real, nor is your number of years real. See, suppose, Preeti, you say, I'm 25 years old. In which case, all you're telling us is that this physical body came out of the womb on this date. But how old are you really? You don't know this. How can you even answer that question? From how many eras, eons has your mind and intellect been coming? For all we know, you may be 1 billion years old. And all you're claiming is 25. I mean, there should be some limit, no, to women reducing their age. 1 billion to 25. I know all of us want to look younger, but this is too much. So we don't know the answer to this question. That is why the whole concept of old age is not accepted by Vedanta. Your body is the result of your mind and intellect. If you're accepting this, your mind and intellect have existed since you don't know when. Then what old age are you talking about? If you use your body and you use your body well, you will be a young person. If you don't use your body well, you will be an old person. Fauji Singh, I don't know if you haven't heard of this Fauji Singh. Last I heard of him, he was 104 years old. I don't know what is the story now, but he was 104 years old and he was running marathons. Anyone has heard of Fauji Singh? No?
Yes.
Fauja Singh, I think.
Fauja Singh, okay, Fauja Singh. Bharat will know stuff like this. So yeah, Madeline is an Indian who does marathons. 104 years old, last when I heard, I don't know what it was. And he runs marathons all over the world. And we say, I'm so old, I can't walk, and this and that. You can't walk because you're choosing not to walk. Your body is not working because you're choosing to have a non-working body. You have to do what it takes, right? And you're not willing to do what it takes. I mean, suppose there's a person, we should actually try that. Suppose there's a person who's 85 years old and can barely move, is overweight, is full of lifestyle ailments, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar. Oh, we have a research department. Why don't you all please take this topic up? Take a very old person who's really not doing very well physically. And if that person improves their lifestyle, their living habits, does exercise, what will happen to that person? Be an interesting thing to check out. Maybe he'll not behave like a 25-year-old, but he'll definitely be way better than whatever he or she is at the moment. But are we willing to pay the price? See, this is the problem in life. We're never willing to pay the price. And then we say we don't have this and we don't have that. Pay the price, you'll have it. Shipram hi manushe loke siddhar bhavati karmaja. Remember that always. Shipram means quickly. Shipram he, indeed. He is a stress word. He, indeed. Shipram hi manushe loke, in the world of manushya, the world of men, means in the world of humans. In this world, indeed quickly. Siddhir bhavati. Siddhi, success. Bhavati, comes, becomes, comes. Karmaja. Karma, action. Ja, birth. Indeed quickly is success born of action. Do the action. Now, we can put all these theories to test, all big theories and lot of motivational talks going on. But we can put it to test. All of us put together, we can do that. We have all this aim, we'll create a university and all. It is a ridiculous aim. It is too high for us. It is beyond conception that we think of something like this. The cost is 108 crores. We have not even done a project of 100 crores. 100 lakhs, forget crores. Okay. And we have conceived that we will do this. Now let's see if we can all get together and do it. Then we'll put our money where our mouth is, right? So it's not just talk, it's something that can be done. And we are there now to see whether it can be done, assuming, of course, we work. If you sit back, nothing will happen. So I hope all of y'all are doing some work for it. I can see many people here who are, the others may also be doing, I don't know, because I'm usually the last person to know anything around here. So if you are doing, great. If you're not doing, please start doing, each one putting in a little bit, and the university will be up in the next 3 years. Can you imagine that? So, Shipram Manushe Loke, quickly. In this world of men, is success born of?
Action.
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 The action is missing. And therefore the speed is missing. And therefore the success is missing. If the action was there, speed will be there, success will be there. So, point being, I hope you remember what the point was, right? You remember what the point was? You remember what we were talking about? Please don't forget. The speaker has the liberty to go across the whole world, go around the 7 seas. You don't forget. What was the point we're discussing?
Can't say how old we are.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Our true birth.
True birth, yes.
Yeah, true birth. So how did we reach university from true birth? Anything. You're accepting anything. Anyone is talking anything, you're accepting. You stop and say, excuse me, what is the connection?
Because we were saying that we say, I don't get this, or I can't, I am not able to achieve this. And we were saying that is because we are not possibly putting in the action.
Yeah, but
We
what
just,
is that?
I don't have this.
Do the
No,
whole
we were
line
talking
of
about
thought. How did
older
it reach?
people and the research of older people, which led to the university. So like the birth to old to, all that.
Yeah,
So,
okay, sorry. Research, correct. Research into old people because of action. Okay, go backwards. Why did we reach old people?
Because when you want something, when the intellect guides you, you do the right thing and you are healthy. So if we
Yes,
do
but
the
why
right
did we
thing,
stop? The question is about birth. Why did we go there?
because mind
because
and
we were,
intellect is before the body. Mind
because
and
Vedanta
intellect is
doesn't believe in
before
age.
body.
Sorry, Preeti, I can't hear you.
Yeah, Vedanta doesn't believe in age. So you were giving example of.
Very good. At least Preeti, thank God, Preeti. Preeti, why is your video not on? Let me at least see who you are. Somebody who actually is following the line of thought. We should give standing ovation to such a person ever. Just to follow the line of thought means you're concentrating. And it is the speaker's job to weave a web so that your concentration powers increase. Remember, you're studying Vedanta. You're not here to memorize something. So therefore, you will be given all these challenges. You have to hang on. You hang on to the idea. Anyone can divert in any way of their choice. You hang on to the idea. Whatever you have sort of decided is what you want answered. Okay, are you okay, Preeti? You had a long, long journey over here. Where did you go? Disappeared. What happened to Preeti? I can't see her at all now. Preeti, are you?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, my internet got disconnected. Yeah. So could you hear what I was saying, or maybe not?
I don't know. Which saying were you referring to?
No, I was just saying that you were saying that Vedanta doesn't believe in age. And then you gave example of this body, the Fauji thing. And then from that, we went to research and how can we maintain the body and age, and then to the university. So it was like chain of discussion. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. So moral of the story being the age that we say is not the correct age. Okay. So I said, we gave you a standing ovation, Preeti. You missed what we said. We gave you a standing ovation for being able to follow the line of thought. especially when it's, snakes off somewhere, you must know. What happened here?
Janki ji, Hari Om.
Hari Om,
in the same context, we see that how the birth in younger age group, like we study also, that mind and intellect is sharp. But as the age advances, we will not see the person intellect or mind functioning at what it happens. So basing on that, we cannot say that his intellect is coming down or mind is.
Okay, interesting. So now what you are referring to is not the mind and intellect. A child takes in so much. You can imagine what kind of information the child takes in. If you've ever had a child, which I'm sure most of you have been with the child needs to know everything. What is red, what is blue, what is square, what is triangle, and each thing individually you have to teach. This is a fan, this is a light, this is mommy, this is daddy, this is good touch, this is bad touch, everything you have to learn. So in the first 4 years of life, you're going to take in way more information than you're going to do in the rest of your life. This taking of information is not related to your mind and intellect directly. This taking in of information is a faculty of pranas. Pranas means it's partly in the body, partly in the mind. So these pranas, it's called Udana Shakti. There are Pancha Pranas, 5 of them. One of them is called Udana Shakti, the capacity to take in information. It's very strong when you're born. You imagine how much knowledge a child has to learn. A child picks up a language. There's some amount of research done. Glenn Doman has done this research. He says by the age of 4, a child can learn up to 6 languages. That is including reading. This is how much the child can do. We of course waste that time because you can't, do what these people are doing, send the child to every tuition class in the city, not like that. But the parent, in a game sort of casual manner, in communication with the child can teach all this. And Glenn Cloman has a system, which if any of you have young children, you can look into his system, very, very nice system. And this capacity to take in knowledge is Udana Shakti, one of the pranas, which are very sharp when you're young. Now, the part which is sharp is the physical body. Imagine the child can learn 6 languages by the time it's 4 years old, including reading. Amarinder, you also made some attempt to learn Sanskrit. So you know where that led. When we are trying to study a language, suppose now Madeline takes up the study of Sanskrit. Can you imagine how much effort she'll have to put in? But suppose she was 2 years old and her parents were speaking Sanskrit, or her parents spoke Greek, I assume, right? Your parents spoke Greek, Madeline. Greek she has had no difficulty learning. How come that she had no difficulty learning Greek and so much difficulty in learning Sanskrit? She learned Greek at that age. It was just natural for her to speak that language. So can you imagine the degree? Now try to learn a language as a grown-up. This Deepraj is learning Japanese. I don't know whether his studies are over or not, but he has said he's going to one day translate how do you know what you know into Japanese. Most people cannot even get it in English. How they will get it in Japanese, I don't know. But whatever, this is his dream. So the thing is, to study Japanese, how difficult it must be for him, but to study his language, which is your language, Deepraj, Oriya.
Bengali.
Bengali?
Yes.
Bengali was no problem. So that's how strong Udana Shakti is as a child. But this has not to do with mind and intellect. it is only partially to do with mind and intellect. This is a prana. It is a faculty of the plasticity of the brain, which reduces as you grow older. It reduces if you allow that reduction, because though certain parts of the brain deteriorate as you grow older, certain parts by use get stronger. I'm talking about the physical body itself. Those which get stronger are related to the mind and intellect. Now, how do we know that the mind and intellect of the child is very little? Because imagine when the emotions of the child. When the child is born, what are the emotions of the child? It has only very, very basic emotion. If it gets what it wants, it is happy. If it doesn't get what it wants, it is unhappy. If it is the middle of the night and it is wet or hungry or thirsty, it will throw a fit, because it doesn't have that emotion to think, my poor parents, they're sleeping, they worked all hard all day, let them sleep. I will put up with little discomfort. That emotions haven't grown yet. Neither is there any thinking. So therefore we say mind and intellect is very little there. Okay, so mind and intellect is not expressing, as the Praj was saying, just as the body is. And the body is so tiny, and the mind and intellect is also so tiny.
Thank you, ma'am.
Elon Langer has done that research on older people. Okay, great. So we can use some of Elon. So research team, Priya, if you want to join the research team, you can also do that, and you can do that. You know, Akhila here today. Akhila came up with this brilliant idea that we should start our own research journal. So we are trying to do that, and so we'll do the thing. So
sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Who was the name? What was the name of the gentleman who you said has done all this research on children?
Glenn Doman.
Gloman. I wrote Coleman. Okay, thank you.
Doman. D for Delhi.
Okay.
So then Preeti. So does that mean that it gets low at a later stage? At times people develop dementia, etc. Yeah, dementia is not directly related to age. I mean, of course, it's older people who get it, but it is not just that. What are the causes of dementia are not yet fully known. But when you say it gets slow at a later stage, means I'm not sure what your it is, but if you mean
you were saying about Udana, that how like it is strong. So I was saying that, so it means if it is reducing at certain point, so that probably like I was just trying to find the relation.
Okay, so pranas are half in the body and half in the mind. Okay, so the body part can deteriorate, but the mind part, there is no question of deterioration because its age is already 1 billion years. We can improve it. So yeah. Do you have Omkar? Who is the host today? Omkar.
Yes.
Omkar, do you have that chart of the pranas, that circle chart? With
I'll look it up.
Okay.
I'll just look it up. Yeah, but it might take me some time. Just can you continue?
Okay, Preeti, I'll come back to you. Shashi Sapra. How can we improve our Udana Shakti? We can't improve our Udana Shakti. It is something given to us at birth. It is a natural thing. What you can do is improve your intellect. So since the intellect has grown, it will maintain the plasticity of certain parts of the brain. Okay, for instance, your ability to take in information as you grow older may reduce. Okay, but because your intellect has grown, you are able to better use information that you have. So you may not require more information. So, that way nature is very kind to us. So you can actually be much brighter, much smarter because you're using your head than you were as a child, in spite of the fact that Udana Shakti is lower. Udana Shakti is more mechanical. So, but intellect is, you can, your whole life long you can grow it. Of course, growing it is an art, a skill. It's not like, it will just grow like that. You have to do your morning studies. And it's not just your morning studies, even physical activity. Suppose you stay in bed and study all day, it won't work. You have to have a full disciplined lifestyle that goes with it. And that will keep the brain working better. Because many people try to do that. They just, they love reading. I mean, easily somebody like me could do that very easily. Just sit and read all day. Okay, I don't want to do anything else. Life is so comfortable. But if I were to do that, I'd have no intellect. I mean, not claiming to have one now, but I would not have anything if I did that. So it's very important. Like how you went on the trek. You came on the trek, right? Yeah. So how you went on the trek, all that is all important. Otherwise, you say, why is Vedanta and Wisdom Trust, having a trek? Because it's part of the knowledge process. It's not divorced. That's why Hatha Yoga is considered one of the 4 yogas. Okay, so how can we improve the intellect is through doing the whole thing. That's why when we're making the university, it's a residential university where people live that life. Not just say, okay, I've read so much. Okay? All right, so let's come back to Preeti because Omkar has very kindly got us this thing. So if you look at this thing, of which you can take a screenshot if you like, see the pink bit, the pranamaya kosha, that means the pranas, and the annamaya kosha, which means the body. Okay, these two combine to make this body. Okay, then half the prana and half the manomaya kosha make up the mind. And then vijnana is obviously intellect, anandmaya is vasanas, and within it all is the Atman. For those who've never seen this diagram before, I mean, most of you have read it because we did it in a past chapter. The self within us is encased in 5 koshas. Koshas mean sheets. Okay, so first is the self, our real personality. Then comes the vasanas, known in Sanskrit as Anandmaya Kosha. Kosha is the sheet. Anandmaya is, Anand is bliss. So it is the sheet full of bliss. In other words, it is your state of deep sleep. Then outside of that is your intellectual sheet. Then the mental sheet. Then the vital air sheet. Vital air sheet is the pranas. And finally the food sheet. So the Sanskrit is written down and the English is written up, whichever one you are more comfortable. So food sheet, the full food sheet plus half of the vital air sheet makes up the pranas. Udana Shakti is one of the pranas. So the state of the body can deteriorate out of age. Can means if you don't use it properly, it won't work. Also, it has a limited life also, but we make it much worse. It is a lifestyle that makes it worse. We attribute to age everything which is the result of our indiscipline. We are indisciplined and we say, I'm growing old. Most ridiculous concept. yes, a certain deterioration may take place, but the amount that is taking place is only a lifelong indiscipline. It's got nothing to do with age. So half the pranas are in the body and half are in the mind. Now, deterioration in the mind is about use it or lose it. But deterioration of the body is, because we already discussed, right, how old the mind can be. The deterioration of the body is a given. Eventually you have to die no matter what you do. But lifestyle is a big part of how much deterioration. Much more than age. Like, we went on the trek last Sunday. There are some people who are much older who did much better than people who were younger. So it's not a matter if you go on a trek or a trail, it's not a matter of how old you are. It's a matter of how fit you are, isn't it? Okay, so dementia is nothing to do directly with age. Its causes are still unknown. It's, the easiest thing for us is to attribute everything to age. It doesn't really answer the question. Okay, Preeti?
Thank you.
Now, coming back to the text, we were discussing that there were 4 types. Epistemology. We were discussing epistemology. Epistemology is the study of how do you know what you know. That means, how did you get this knowledge that you call knowledge? If you say, I know that God exists, then epistemology is the art of asking, how do I know God exists? Suppose I say, the grass is green. Then epistemology's question is, how do you know that the grass is green? Anything that you know, it's always a good idea to ask ourselves this question, how do I know this? Our attempt is always to know something more. And knowing something more means that we are starting from some position. If the starting position itself is wrong, everything you add on top is going to be wrong. Therefore, it's very important to question right from the beginning. Is this that I am saying true to begin? The first statement, is it true? Building up a logic from the first statement is relatively easy. But being able to question the first statement itself, okay, like we'll start, philosophy will start. There is a world. This world is change. Because the world is change, do not get attached to it. Okay, it's taken off. What will epistemology do? What question will it ask?
How do you know what you know?
How do you know there is a world? Correct, Aisha. It started on the point. How do you, there is a world, this world is change. If you get attached to this world, you will be in trouble because it will change, right? And you want it to stay steady. Epistemology's role is your first sentence. How do you know there is a world? Ask the most fundamental question. Okay, and every step of the way it'll ask the question. How do you know that the world is change? How do you know that attachment is a problem? Every stage it will keep asking this question. How do you know it? So many people make so many statements about so many things, and they're completely oblivious to this fundamental thing. How do I know this? The Lord Jesus Christ will save you. How do you know this? Sri Krishna will save you. How do you know this? the Bible, the Gita, the Quran, they are important books. How do you know this? Why do you say what you say? How do you know this is a fact? So, it's a whole field, and the field has answers. How do you know anything? There are 4 ways you can know anything in Vedanta. For the sake of completion, let me say there are 6, but we are going to say 4. Okay, there are 4 ways. The first way we know anything is through pratyaksha or sense perception. How do you know the grass is green?
You see it as green.
You see it as green. My eyes say that it's green. Okay, so how do I know that the class is going on?
You see the screen, I can hear the sound.
Yeah.
You can see it, you can hear it. How do you know that the seat that you are sitting on is hard or soft? You can feel it. How do you know the room that you are in is hot or cold? You can feel it. So the first way we know anything is through our senses. It is the most primary way. Children use that maximum. Like you give a child a toy. What does a child do with the toy first?
Rick.
Puts it in his mouth. What is it? He doesn't know, right? Taste. So how does he want to know? He also wants to know, what is this you've given him? So he's seen it, he's heard it. Now he still doesn't know what it is. So he put it in his mouth to see, does it have a taste? It's edible food. So, because for a child, remembers, the taste is the primary thing, primary enjoyment of a child. He has no other enjoyment. He can barely see you, he can barely hear you. But taste, it begins with. So that's why everything has to go into his mouth for him to figure out what this thing is. With my finger also, he put it in his mouth. But why are you putting my finger in the mouth? The child doesn't know. His tendency is everything in the mouth. So, the first and most primary way of knowing something is through our senses, 5 of which we have. Other creatures, of course, have others, but we have 5. First, most important way. That is why sense perceptions for a child should be many. The more he sees, the more he hears, the more he, more he's he is in touch with, the brighter the child becomes. Because all of that is going in. So sense perception is the first and most primary way of knowing. However, in philosophy, unfortunately, it doesn't play much of a role. It plays some role, obviously, but it cannot tell us whether God exists or not. It can't do it. So we have to go to the next source, the second source. It is known as Anumana. Anumana means inference. It is logic. It is trying to know that, okay, I have seen 5 elephants. They all had a trunk. Anumana tells us, perception tells us that the elephants that I have seen have a trunk. How do I know an elephant has a trunk? I saw it. So how many elephants have I seen? Maybe 10 elephants I've seen. What does Anumana tell us? What does inference tell us?
All elephants have.
All elephants have trunks. So from perceptions, we make inferences. Since I saw this 5-10 times, therefore that has to be true. Now, whether you're good at this or bad at this is a matter of how much you've developed the ability, but this is the second way you can learn anything. It's known as Anumana. With Anumana, we can somewhat understand what is the concept of God. The third way of knowing something is through comparison. You know something because it is like something else. Okay? So when you are telling your friends about Vedanta, so Deepraj will say, Vedanta, it's very interesting. It's like mathematics, because that's his field. And Madeline will say, oh, Vedanta, it's very interesting because it's like psychology. So everybody will have their own way of saying what it is like to tell their people why they should come to these classes. Okay, Shashi might say, oh, you must come to Vedanta. They take us on treks. So each one will say it is like this. Okay, so how are you expressing that it is? You see, when you read, say, Aesop's fables, and he tells you the story of a hare and a tortoise, then what is he doing? He's doing a comparison. He tells you hare and the tortoise, then you understand somehow, though he's not saying this, you understand that slow and steady win the race. Right? So we learn through comparison. And the fourth method, so we can learn something about God, something about the self through comparisons. As we are limited, God is unlimited. As our knowledge is so limited, God is omniscient. We are only in a little place, God is in every place. We learn something through comparison. And the fourth way we learn anything is through agami. Agami means an authoritative source. An authoritative source tells us something and we accept it. In this case, we have switched off our thinking largely. We have recognized our ignorance in that field and therefore say, I don't know. And therefore, I am approaching an authority so that I will know. Not so that I will continue to be ignorant, but so that I will know. So that faith in the authority has to one day translate to knowledge. Faith exists in ignorance. When I don't know something, I may have faith in it. Okay? Like there's a doctor. I don't know whether he's a good doctor or a bad doctor. So, but I can see that he has an MBBS degree. So I go to him on the faith that he will be able to cure me. Once he cures me, I know that he can cure me. If he has cured me multiple times over the last 25 years, then now I no longer have faith that he will cure my next disease. I know that he can do this. So faith will exist in ignorance. Faith exists so that you can gain knowledge. If your faith continues as faith, you are wasting your time because the point of faith is to reach knowledge. Okay, so when we go to an authoritative source, such as a teacher, such as a doctor, such as a lawyer, why do we go to a lawyer? Why do we tell the lawyer to draft out our agreements? Because he knows something there that we don't know, right? Because if we write an agreement, there'll be so many holes in it that will never stand up to any court of law. But when he writes the argument, should read how they write. They make so certain that no way you are going to be able to get out of whatever they have put. My father was a lawyer. He used to say, if it's not written, it's not there. Because when I said, no, but obviously this, that, and the other, it's not written, it's not there. It's that simple. You can't go to a judge and say, I assume this and I assume that. If it's not written, it's not there. So write it down. So 4 methods of gaining knowledge. Omkar. Not questioning something can come from Shraddha or Tamas. How does one know which of these two it is? When you don't question something because you don't even want to know, that's Tamas. When you question something because you have some definite purpose, that is Shraddha. You sometimes in Shraddha you don't question because it's inappropriate at that time or something, but it doesn't mean that you have given up questioning. It just means at that moment it is not helping your purposes, so you're not doing it. For instance, if you have a stomach ache and you go to a doctor and the doctor tells you need to take this antibiotic, you don't start questioning him, please explain how this antibiotic will work on my stomach and all. It's inappropriate. You have gone there to get cured. So you don't need all the chemical compositions, unless you're another doctor yourself, of how this antibiotic is going to work and all that. It's inappropriate. But if you don't get cured, then you will say, what happened over here, right? You'll ask that question. So when in Shraddha, you're questioning, non-questioning is with purpose. In Tamas, you're questioning, non-questioning is just like don't care attitude.
But Janti, I often feel in between. For example, somebody asks me to do something, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to do it, and I don't want to even get into it because it doesn't simply make sense to me. So what is that? Because it's neither Shraddha nor Tamas.
Yeah, you rejected that ideal.
But it comes from my limited understanding or misunderstanding. It doesn't make sense to me. That's it.
Yeah, that's fine. What's wrong with that?
Okay.
Obviously, each one of us is going to make some discrimination on some things we'll do and things we won't do. So, I mean, that's our intellect, and that's that. What's the problem here?
Because the counter to that is this is something that is traditional. It has come down many centuries, and of course, those guys knew better than you. So why do you?
Not really. Why? We don't have all this. This is not reason at all. Where you studied, how do you know what you know, right? So obviously not. Something has come down because it's old. You should take it. Not at all. Didn't we read Buddha's quotation? Can anyone remember what page that was? Don't take something because it was which page now? Swamiji keeps us on our toes by changing this book so much that we forget what number, what page something came on. Oh, where was it? Here it is. Page 113 in Vedanta Treatise. Lord Buddha has cautioned humanity over 2,500 years ago on the important role of reason in human life. Do not believe what you have heard. Do not believe in tradition because it has handed down many generations. Do not believe in anything that has been spoken of many times. Do not believe because the written statements come from some old sage. Do not believe in conjecture. Do not believe in authority or teachers or elders. But after careful observation and analysis, when it agrees with reason, and it will benefit one and all, then accept it and live by it. Page 113. I don't know if you all can see it.
Not in my book. Not in my book.
Okay, so it's in the book. It's in Vedanta Treatise, chapter 7, Light of Wisdom, subtopic, How to Gain Wisdom.
Okay.
So don't take it because it's tradition. Don't take it because the teacher tells you. Take it or reject it after applying your own intellect to it. Who so told you to take it on tradition? Whoever told you, if a teacher told you, Omkar, take it on tradition, get rid of the teacher.
Somebody who tells me I can't get rid of that person. It's my wife.
Okay, sorry, then I take back. Especially since your wife is also in this class. Okay, next time she says it, open Vedanta Treatise and show her because she's also studying Vedanta Treatise. So, sure. Where is she? She's not there today. What happened?
Lucky for you,
No, she's not.
Huh?
Luckily for you.
Yeah, luckily today, Bhumkar, we can say anything. So, what happened? Where is she? Why is she bunking? Tell her I was asking why she's bunking.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. So no. In other words, you don't take it because tradition. You take it for no other reason. There's only one reason to accept something, and that is the test of good sense. Is it good sense or not? Now that in you, which will tell you whether it's good sense or not, is your intellect. So it's your job every day to build that intellect so that you yourself will know whether it is good sense or it is not good sense. And we accept nothing that does not pass that test. There's only a very small caution here, that if you know somebody who according to you has better sense than you, who has a better intellect than you, and that person says something, then don't reject it. You can shelve it and think about it after 6 months. So suppose you read something in the Gita or the Bible or the Quran, and you think that doesn't make any sense, then don't reject it. Just shelve it, keep it on the side for a bit, come back and think about it after 6 months. But still, you're not expected to accept it. Just think about it again. But accept only that which according to you meets the test of good sense. Okay. So, which paragraph were we to read today?
Janki, there are 1 or 2 questions as well.
Oh, okay. What was the paragraph? We finished the 4 things, right, today? And we're not reading any further because class is over, but we had finished the 4 pramanas, isn't it?
No,
We had finished 3.
3, okay. So we have to do Agami, right? We have to do tradition.
No, thank you, Ji.
No, we haven't
182
finished Upama.
182 page, the second para.
Paragraph
We have to do it?
means of comparison help clear this mystery.
Okay, fine. We'll do that next time. Let's see the questions. Momita, so faith is knowledge of ignorance and desire to know from someone I think knows what I don't know, but I still need to know. I still need proof that the authority is knowledgeable. That's correct, Momita. Preeti, the famous koan, kill the Buddha if you meet him on the road. Correct, Preeti. Bharat. Oh, Bharat has an announcement. Okay, so that's it for today as far as the class is concerned. Bharat has an announcement for us.
Yes, Hariom everyone. So tomorrow we won't have the regular Bhagavad Gita class. We will have a small group discussion. Same time, we'll announce the details on the group. Thank you.
So what we have decided, just to give you an overall view of this, is that after the end of every chapter in every class, all 4 classes, all 3 classes, we will do a small GD. This is so that everybody learns to apply themselves. So it's not a day to bunk, please. It's not a day to, oh, there's no lecture, I'm not coming. Please attend the group discussion. Shashi, you too, because don't say that, oh, I don't know anything, so I won't go. It is so that we learn to apply our heads. We just keep applying, and that will help it grow. And next Sunday, we will again meet and hear what was the discussion and discuss that in class. So it's not just between the group, but it will be done in the larger group as well. So, so that's it for today.